Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're all having a great and wonderful day. Well, what we have here is another complete failure and collapse of a democratic state because they are all going for socialism because they think that raising prices and taxes is, the best thing to do. And honestly, they don't actually raise prices necessarily. They raise prices indirectly by increasing higher taxes and minimum wage so that way they can fix things, which it doesn't fix things, it just makes things worse. So without further ado, here's the issue happening in Maryland.
That we're not going to do is do what the Biden administration did and tell the American people they don't know how they feel. They are traumatized, and over the Biden inflation, we have slowed inflation, and we are working very hard to bring it down. Kristen, I can tell you that the Council on Economic Advisors has a study. The best way to bring your inflation rate down? Move from a blue state to a red state. Blue state inflation is 0.5% higher, and that is because they don't deregulate, they keep prices up, energy is higher.
Meanwhile,
It's revealed that more people are moving out of Maryland than moving into the state.
Yeah, so the state comptroller's office says Maryland has been losing about 40,000 residents on average each year to states with more affordable housing.
Lionel Donovan shows us how the people who are sticking around are making do.
Finding affordable housing is an ongoing problem in Rockville, but it's not a problem that's unique to the city. Maryland's comptroller recently released a report that reveals that between 2000 and 2022, the number of households in Maryland that are able to earn enough income to afford a median price home has dropped by more than 25%. Today, I spoke with a Marylander who's had to leave Montgomery County to find a more affordable place to live, but she says she might not be done moving.
It just really meant a lot to me, to be able to say, I'm back here in Rockville.
But this past February, Sherry Cook had to leave the city her family called home for generations. The reason? The price of housing just kept going up. And as a furloughed federal worker, she says the recent upheavals from D.C. only added more uncertainty to her life.
Not knowing how much it would possibly go up was the scary part.
Right.
And so, after things went up the way they did, it was a better choice to just go ahead and leave.
She now lives in Bowie, but her story is quickly becoming more common in Maryland. A recent report from the state's comptroller revealed that between 2010 and 2023, Maryland lost a total of 2.3 million residents to others.
So what you see here is just a complete travesty of what is going on in Maryland and what happened to have where Democrats don't seem to understand on how to handle things. Now, of course, when you go with the Democrats, you have to expect certain things. You're going to get certain outcomes when you vote for them. And here's the things that you probably and most likely will end up getting with these Democrats is that you'll get high taxes, heavy regulation, and very high crime. And this will spark an actual exodus of what's going on within these countries, or rather states, because, this is a common theme, and people can't seem to get that. Well, here's the reason why, because now what we have here is that we had around between 2010 and 2023, 2.3 million people have left the state of Maryland because it is too expensive to live there. And this is kind of the consequence that you have to deal with when you vote for Democratic policies, and you only get a mass exodus. Now, there is a mass exodus happening in New York City, I may believe, along with California. So this is not really a surprise here, but people need to start realizing a trend here. And if you don't start realizing this, then there's something wrong with your head upstairs than actually kind of understanding what's been going on.
News is learning more about the impact of rising housing prices on Maryland's economy. Kelly Lynn is live in Laurel to break down the findings of a new report that shows millions of people are leaving the state to move to more affordable areas.
That's right. Before the pandemic, we saw wealthier, older residents leaving the state of Maryland to go to other states, but that is changing. I want to go to that 78-page state report because it does provide the details that you need to know. It shows that between 2010 and 2023, about 2.3 million residents left the state, and only 2 million moved into the state during the same time period, many of them going to states like Florida, Pennsylvania, the Carolinas, Texas, Virginia, and Delaware. Before the pandemic, high-income retirees were leaving Maryland to get to a state that offered a better climate and tax savings, but now there's been an increase in younger and lower to middle income residents leaving the state. The researchers believe that housing affordability and cost of living are the primary factors influencing the migration trend. Maryland renter Rachel Rollins has considered relocating to another state because of the high housing costs.
I am contemplating whether I'm going to move further out, just to be able to take advantage of some of the housing, more affordable housing that they may offer.
And in September, Maryland Governor Wes Moore did sign an executive order to increase the amount of affordable housing in the state. It calls for improving the use of state-owned land, as well as speeding up the permitting process and creating a new state housing ombudsman.
Yeah. So just goes to show that Democrats don't know what they're doing. They have no idea what they're doing. And this woman here is expecting to leave or wanting to leave because the housing prices is just too expensive. And very soon, I'm going to show you the actual operational costs, their revenue and profit, etc., of what the bars make, just the bars, what they make in actual operator costs in terms of profit, because there's a huge problem here when you want to raise the prices to $25 an hour. So what we're going to do here is this.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Maxine Stryker. Tonight, critics are ripping into Maryland's current financial system, saying the state's policies are systemically driving people out of the state and making life more expensive for those who stay.
The American Legislative Exchange ranked Maryland among the bottom 10 U.S. states in economic outlook and performance as well. And just this year, Maryland lost its AAA bond rating for the first time in 50 years. The state is also looking at a nearly $1.5 billion fiscal deficit for budget year 2027 after approving $1.6 billion in taxes and fees to offset last year's deficit. Residents say they're struggling to stay afloat.
The outlook is a lot worse for fiscal 27 than it was at the end of session. About $1.5 billion deficit.
I've heard of so many people able to leave here because of the taxes, my husband especially. Everything's taxed more and more and more every year, but we love living here.
Gubernatorial candidate Ed Hale is taking aim at the state's recent fee increases at the MVA, in some cases costing drivers hundreds of dollars. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor has those comments and Governor Moore's message in just a moment. But
This is what I was talking about, right? She says that the woman here says that everybody's leaving, it's too expensive here, and the taxes are killing them. Well, guess what? If you reduce the taxes, you have to be able, it's like if you increase the taxes, it makes people get less money in their pockets. It's that simple. And Democrats, you people, you leftists that keep voting in these Democratic people, guess what's happening? They're raising your taxes. So the only other way, your only other revenue is to vote somebody else in that will not increase your taxes. But you people are too stupid. The reason why I'm calling you out is because a lot of people, I had people in my comment section saying like, oh, you should do socialism to read about it, but you're so stupid that you don't understand the typical nuance or understanding of how the economy works and how things go about. This is just reality. You're too stupid. Now, I'm going to educate you on some of these things after this video because this is going to be mind-blowing for you idiots.
Also looking into a push to raise the state's minimum wage to $25 an hour, making it the highest in the country. But the proposal is met with resistance, including from business owners who say the policy will force more of them to shut their doors. Fox 45's Jeff Abel begins our team coverage with this debate surrounding Maryland's minimum wage. Jeff.
Well, supporters began this week spreading across the state and launching a petition drive, hoping to raise the minimum wage from $15 to $25 an hour. But if it happens, many small businesses predict the impact will be catastrophic. At Max's Tap House in Fells Point, beer was on their lips, but wages were on their minds.
I mean, people are going to lose their jobs over this.
At issue is a hike in the minimum wage. Proponents are proposing raising the current $15 an hour minimum wage to $25 an hour. Workers who currently earn tips would be eligible for the higher minimum wage, too. Proponents insist the current $15 minimum wage is hardly a livable wage.
The cost of living is high, and people are struggling to pay, for their homes, for food, for childcare.
It's not sustainable. Small businesses cannot do this.
Owner Gail Furman believes the proposed hike in minimum wage could prove to be catastrophic for many small businesses.
If I have to pay an employee $25 an hour, it means I have to dramatically increase my pricing. When I do that, it's not sustainable. To buy a beer at Max's, you're going to have to pay $15 to $20 to buy a beer. Never in my lifetime would I think that would be the case.
It sounds great.
That is insane, guys. $15 to $20 for a beer? That's insane. I would never do that. For a pack of beer, I could spend $20 and get like a 30 pack of beer, even though I don't drink. But that's insane. What are we doing here? Exactly. That is insane. And if she is talking about before this $25 hike comes into play, imagine what the beer is going to cost if she has to increase it. $40, $50 bucks for a beer? Are we out of your mind? And nobody's going to pay that money for a beer. Are you insane? See, like, just how this is immediately starting to be very bad.
In theory, it's great politically for politicians, but it will hurt small businesses, it will hurt Main Street, and ultimately it will hurt workers.
Supporters have now launched a statewide petition drive, hoping to get the proposal on next year's ballot. But opponents point to other states which have seen dramatic hikes in their minimum wages, and there were dire consequences.
Look at California. They raised their minimum wage to $20 an hour just for fast food restaurants, and it is documented that it led to an increase in job losses and more automation.
The people that they quote unquote say they're helping, they're hurting. Because every time the minimum wage gets increased, all the prices around it have to go up in order to cover the additional increase. So people who are at a minimum wage are struggling, again, even though they're making more money.
Yeah. So again, here is what I'm going to start doing, explaining to you, because hopefully you leftists have stayed along after me ridiculing you and ruling you onto what is to happen here. All right, because you guys need to start understanding exactly what is going on with this. Now, here's the potential pros and cons of the actual minimum wage being increased to $25 an hour. Now, we're going to go on the potential cons because there's only going to be cons. There is not going to be any pros here because some gains offset by job losses. 1 to 5% drop in low-wage jobs, 10 to 30K losses statewide. 3 to 10% rises in food service, broader inflation pressure, closures, automation strain on small firms, slower growth shifts to other states. And we're already seeing people causing this and having this happen. Then we can go to other things as well that is related to these costs. So, for example, let's go to the bar of or the average revenue for certain of these businesses. Now, this is across all businesses, right? So the employer firm businesses average revenue is between 5.8 to 6.8 million. Their estimated total revenue is $835 billion to $709 billion. Now, let me explain on what revenue versus profit is, because you people don't understand what that is. Now, the revenue is the total income for sales. It is different from net income, which is what's left after all the expenses and taxes have been paid. So, your revenue is everything you have before all the taxes and stuff are been paid, right? This is all of it before anything else. Your income is going to be after all your taxes and expenses and paying the employees, et cetera, has been paid. That is your income. That is what you would be getting, or your profit at the end of the day. That's what that would be. Now, let's go to bars, all right? So if we go to bars and we look at the statewide total, this is for Maryland again still. Now, let's go look at the actual average bar for of their actual revenue. It's 703,000. Now, if we go with their profit, they have their average per bar is $41,000 with their profit, which means their profit is like $661,000. That's not a lot. Now, guys, it's not that hard to understand. If we go look at the labor, because we have to look at the labor first, the labor is 1,600, just for the labor and payroll and taxes, etc., is 176,000 people. Labor equals employees. Are you catching on, leftists? So, when you have that come into play, you're equaling out to, all this great stuff or what have you, all of this. So this is all the revenue, all the stuff that would go up. So your operational costs end up being $662,000, which equals out, if you add 41,000 to that, that means that's your actual profit. So 703,000. That comes out to here. Now, guys, if the actual profit for your labor and wages is this, right? So if you do this here, and we go back to here, right? So we have this here to where $25 an hour is $52,000 per year, right? That is the average. That is the average income you'll be getting. Now, it says here that the average income, or rather the amount of employees that they employ here, is 6.8, right? So it's 6.8. Now, if we take the 6.8, round it up to 7, because that's pretty much what it is, it's pretty much 7 at the end of the day, you end up getting this, $364,000. Well, guess what? If you're adding another 100, 200K, to, if not 230K, to their operational costs, guys, what does that mean? That means this becomes 103,000 to 930,000, give or take, of your average per bar, which means they no longer make a profit. So if they no longer make a profit and they are $200,000, $300,000 in the hole, well, guess what they have to do now? They have to dramatically raise the prices of all their products and stuff so that they can at least make an equal revenue to go even. But most businesses want to make a profit, because if you don't make a profit, you end up, it eventually starts biting you in the ass later on. So what ends up happening is that these people will end up having to increase prices, and nobody's going to buy from those prices because they're too expensive for people to operate. Where therefore people have to cut. They'll have to cut employees out because they're not making enough revenue. They had to cut them out because $252,000 is too much, which means these people are out of a job, and then it hurts the economy, and everything else rises. You get the gist, leftists. It is not beneficial to do this. To raise the minimum wage, it is detrimental to everyone. Small businesses can't do this. And if you think the large businesses, or the big businesses, can do this, not really, because as you can hear, the businesses in California, like McDonald's, etc., and Taco Bell, these are pretty large businesses, right? They're pretty big. Well, they still had to cut staff because it was still too expensive. Because even still, their operational costs are most likely more massively high than these bars. So this is the problem that you're having here. You guys think that in all reality that it's okay to raise the minimum wage and it's going to work like that. No, businesses have to increase prices in order to keep up their revenue, so they keep up their profits, so they can at least stay in business. If they can't, they close down because you have to pay. So it doesn't work. you'll still be struggling. The only other way to solve this is to cut regulation and to cut taxes so that way people can make more money because there's less money being taken out of your pocket. It is not that hard to understand. And you leftists and you socialists do not get this at all. It's completely stupid with you people because you do not understand on how the economy works. I'm a layman. I took absolutely no economics class, and I can give you the actual data here, right here, showing you on how this works economically, and I haven't taken any class. You people are so dumb, you don't even realize how the back end works. So, at the end of the day, we have to see if this will not work and they raise it. So people are leaving in droves because of this reason, and it's understandably so. So we'll see on how this goes. I can almost guarantee you that the pros are not going to outweigh the cons. The cons are going to take over the pros, and more people are going to flee Maryland even worse than it already is now, because if you increase that minimum wage to 25, it isn't going to go good. But, of course, you people are going to vote for Democratic and leftists again because you think that's a solution when it's not the solution, and then you'll flee to red states because they have lower taxes, etc., while destroying the state that you go. You should not be allowed to leave. You should be trapped there, live there, and forced to live under your stupid policies because you need to realize on how stupid you are. The only other way that you can fix this is by fixing things, by changing the way you want to do it, by voting a different way. Because if you want to raise taxes, well, by all means, go and do it. But that's just going to be the judgment to you. All right, guys, that's it for the video. Like, subscribe, share, and as always, take care. Have fun with the collapse.